Hello, all you wonderful, fantastic, epic people. It is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2013. I have successfully paid rent, and I'm thrilled to be here with you on Day 9 Daily number 565, where we learn to be a better gamer. Some things, of course, never change. The chair is still squeaky. But one thing that did change was the fact that Terrans now have Widow Mines, and the Zerg vs. Terran matchup has been quite difficult for many players. So that's the topic of today. So in today's daily, we're going to be looking at a variety of Zerg vs. Terran games from LiquidSnute, mainly looking at how to deal with some of the opening considerations of Widow Mines. We're not going to spend as much in the mid-game because I wanted to make sure we had a nice, neat, clean, clear focus daily on a lot of the early game opening considerations, because this is truly where the Zergs are suffering. Before we get more into that, let me talk a little bit about what's coming up. Tomorrow, LiquidSnute Zerg vs. Protoss. Oh god, I was so happy I almost snooted. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing a second day's playthrough of Dark Souls. I don't know if I can handle much more than a second day, but I've decided I have to dedicate, I have to focus. I have to do it just one more time. I have to thwart the double gargoyles. They're a nightmare. But then Monday is Fun Day Monday, the 2v2 Fun Day Monday, whereby you must play, where one of you in the 2v2 team must cheese before expanding, and the other one must double expand before building any units. Go to day9.tv for how to submit. And if you're looking for a partner, there's a thread there, so you can find someone. And last but not least, not this Friday, but the following Friday, I'll be doing all-day subscriber mono battles in 2v2v2v2s. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun. Literally 7 hours of hanging out and playing, because we haven't done subscriber mono battles in quite some time. So if you would like to subscribe to the Day 9 Daily, go to twitch.tv/day9tv. There's the little button, the voluntary $5 a month subscription, if you would like. If not, totally cool. Let's talk about Zerg versus Terran. In the early game, Terran have a whole slew of new threats. Reapers are a lot more threatening. Medivacs with their speed boost. Hellbats. Widow Mines, of course, the big topic of today. Ravens, not so much. I'm not worried about having like a seeker missile come in and pop my base, but really those four things are enough. Because if you have regular Hellion, regular Banshee, regular Marine Marauder pushing, and then you throw in that mega fast Medivacs and Reapers and Widow Mines and Hellbats and, hell, I don't know, some weird Thor drop stuff, like there's a lot of considerations in the early game for Zerg. In particular, many Terran players are pretty much putting some kind of Widow Mine into their play early on in some way, and it's really messing Zergies up. But what do you do as Zerg? With Zerg, the only early tools that we'll have are earlier Burrow and earlier Overlord Speed. Other than that, nothing. We don't have any new units. Only once we get layer tech and we start to get those super fast Mutalisks, Swarm Hosts, Vipers, Ultralisks, only much later does Zerg have the answers. So what do we do in the opening? If you watch, oh yeah, I just got out of the shower, looking so good. Yeah, let me fix that, yeah. If you look at MLG, the general tool that Zergs used early game was losing. Whereas we saw Startail Life do an amazing series of incredible, solid control in the early game to be able to throw off some of these players who are doing that sort of mining. So we're going to be looking a little bit at that as well. So here's what's going to be happening in the daily. In part 1, we're going to identify some of the weaknesses that go on with Widow Mine play, and we're going to be talking about how to deal with it in an aggressive way, how to do some attacking based upon some of those weaknesses. In part 2, we're also going to explore some different ways to exploit the weakness, primarily by being ultra passive up against Widow Mines. And then at the final part, and this is one of the most important things, we want to make sure that all these answers we have for Widow Mines don't screw up the rest of our play. And that's the one thing I want to say right now. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Sure, we might have answers for Widow Mine openings right now, but we want to make sure that we don't screw over anything else. Because if we do some sort of ultra stereotyped answer that deals effectively only with Widow Mines, we're going to lose to all the other standard stuff. So we have Morrow, the Terran player, down in the bottom left, and we have Snute, the Zerg player, up in the top right. Now, just to be sure of this, for any of you who were not here yesterday, I accidentally had this volume at 100% and nearly blew everyone's ears out. Fortunately, I have adjusted it preemptively. I don't even have to toggle the sound like that. Ooh, how on point I am. So, what are we doing in part 1? We're going to look at how to deal with Widow Mines, with early aggression. In part 2, with not early aggression. And in part 3, an example of what to do if they don't go Widow Mines at all. So it's going to be a pretty clean, clear, crisp, short daily. What we're going to begin with is we're going to look at Morrow, and we're going to see what are common timings that we'll deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up a little bit. Morrow is going to be doing a pretty typical early command center kind of play. Nothing out of the ordinary, really, just usual sort of things. And is going to follow up with an early wall off. This is one of the most common openings in this matchup nowadays. Occasionally you will see this command center planted here to complete the wall off, to deal with some sort of early lingenings, something like that. But for the most part, the purpose of this build from Morrow is to get an expansion and a factory up very quickly. This is going to be our benchmark play, our benchmark timing, so we can get a sense of when things pop out. Whether they go for barracks, expand, or expand barracks, always at around 5:30 or so is as early as this factory can begin churning some stuff out. As early as this bad boy can begin churning this thing out. So this is a very key timing that at 6 minutes, Hellions are not quite out. Hellions will actually pop out, and we will be able to see the Hellions at around 6:30 to 7. What's everything I've just done right now? I've said if Terran does something normal, we should see some Hellion play between 6:30 and 7. This is the most important timing for this entire show, because what if we don't see Hellions between 6:30 and 7, and we still don't see them between 7 and 7:30? He's probably gone Widow Mines. Ta-da! Great, cool. If we see 2 Hellions between 6:30 and 7, and then no more Hellions, he's probably gone for Widow Mines. This is the logic that we want to end up using. So this was a very simple example, just so you could see a strong Terran doing no mess-ups. Early command center, 6:30. I want this formation to be drilled into your mind. The biggest thing is that there's just not a lot of stuff. 2 Hellions, 2 Marines. He may be getting his command center started, his 3rd one. He may be getting those upgrades started, but overall just has these 2 units. Oh, yes. So with that in mind, I want to come back and I want to look at LiquidSnute's build. In part 1, we're going to see him do some roach play. In part 2, we're going to see him do some more lingy type play, same as in part 3. We're going to first look at the skeleton structure of Snute's opening so we can see what the versatility is. Here we go. So, okay, Snute is going to do something very, it's pretty standard nowadays. But still, I like to just give credit to the build's strength. We're going to be going expand, gas, pool, all quite early. Very commonly in Wings of Liberty, we would get this expansion, and then we would skip our gas, and we'd get a 3rd expansion quite quickly. Not in the modern day. We actually do need that early gas. So first, Overlord poaches forward to get some vital information. Here's our pool. You can go gas pool or pool gas, that's fine. I don't want to be ultra crazy with my specifics. I just want you to note the general concept of going for a relatively early gas geyser. So of course Snute is going to pop in here and see this basic setup. Great. Go get your gas, Snute. Again, don't worry about the ultra specifics of this. Snute's just going to pop in, and one of the most key bits of information that we're going to see Snute try to gather up each game is whether this gas geyser goes down. Because If your opponent goes for not a really fast gas, but kind of fast. I mean, an easy way to measure it is that at like 4 minutes, he hasn't really mined that much. You can just see it right there. You can click on the damn thing and read the number. 2444. Okay, if it's 4 minutes and not that much, then okay, it's one of these geysers that comes after an expansion. If you click on it and he's mined maybe 200 gas, then you go, oh, he's probably hiding a factory somewhere and I'm going to die. Snute's going to use this gas timing a lot. So, again, pretty typical build from Snute, getting all these basic structures up, but in particular identifying the gas. Why is this important? Because it means our opponent is not doing a barracks-based opening, he's doing a factory-based opening. Otherwise, he wouldn't need the gas. Or he's awful. I want to throw out that one bit right now. It is theoretically possible for Morrow to go expand gas and then get 2 barracks, but that build is super terrible and awful in all ways, and he'll die very fast. So we just don't worry about that possibility. We say he goes gas and goes factory, or he does not and he goes barracks. Being awful is always an option. Even if I don't say it, it's like a silent E at the end of English words. It's like a silent, or he could be just fucking terrible. It's always kind of silently dangling. So great, we're identifying this. Now with our gas-based opening, we have a number of options. We can go for the very swift Zergling speed. We can go for some sort of roach play. In these first games, I'm going to focus on the roach play. Many of you will have questions about the Zergling speed. I'm not going to worry about it. I want to show the aggressive variant because I know people love themselves some attacking. So here is Snute doing a very common opening in Wings of Liberty. It's where you just get this early gas geyser and you just slam out some roaches. 11, 12. These numbers are actually becoming a little bit stronger in Heart of the Swarm because I want you to look at this formation from Morrow. Morrow has not yet gotten a Banshee. In fact, Morrow is never going to get a Banshee. Morrow is going to spot this, and then we'll try to burrow Widow Mines in this defensive position. When players are going for Widow Mines, or if players are going Reaper and then into Hellion, they just don't have the Banshee. And the Banshee is kind of hilariously the most important defensive tool for a huge number of Zerg plays. Bigling, Baneling plays. With no Banshees, they'll just kill you outright. You need the Banshees to shoot the Banelings. A lot of Roach Rushes might kill you outright, but will definitely do a lot of damage when there's no Banshees. So this is the big exploit that many Zerg players are going to be able to do. Even if Morrow did go for Banshee, the Banshee would only be popping out in just a few seconds. So Snute actually has the opportunity to have perfect aggression because he can just see these little dots there. So this is a very straightforward way to play. Just kind of get in there, and again, no Banshee. Why? Because we focused on mine, we focused on bio. So this is great information that Snute is getting with this play. The Widow Mine restricts the amount of defensive opportunities in the early game. And now, how do you really approach these? You have to build Marauders, and even then you have to micro really hard, and even then, if you mess up the micro, you lose stuff really easily. Super, super solid. Vulnerability created by Terran going for mine. Okay, and then I want to show one very swift follow-up. Because so many Terran players are going for the biomine style, which is pretty easy to identify because you see Marauders, Marines with stim, and you see mines. Ah, I'm so brilliant. Sometimes it's easy to see someone going biomine early because you identify the bio and the mine. But interestingly, this again has a large vulnerability to just pure roach. What would kill pure roach? Excellent shots from these Widow Mines, tanks, or lots of Marauder. As we can see, your average Terran Bear will not have a huge amount of Marauders. They're likely not even really going to have that many factories with a tech lab. Terran needs to build Marines, because if Mutalisks show up at any moment, Terran needs the defense. So Snute can actually do this early aggressive push and follow it up with this second push. Which, hilariously, the Overlords are the critical piece to this puzzle. These will absorb all the tank shots. Or, oh god, not the tank shots, the mine shots. Sorry, forgive me. This is actually a very high percentage play. The Medivacs, by Morrow going Medivacs, there's not really going to be that much Marine Marauder. Morrow could have skipped Medivacs and gone for the 6 barracks first, but he'd probably still lose to this. These are here to absorb the shots. And Snute places himself in an incredibly strong position at this point in the game. So, what have we learned? I'm actually going to close that replay. We've just basically seen, wow, there are some big holes that need to be accounted for if I go mines as Terran. And this roach push exploits it quite well. Do note that the early roach pushes are also a really commonly and effectively used tool in Wings of Liberty. Therefore, even if he is going Hellion Banshee, something more traditional, we're okay. I want to keep reminding you that even if they don't go for the mines, we still need to have an answer. I know this is the mine-focused daily. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to do one more example in part 1 before we head into part number 2. The big vulnerabilities for Terran is they sacrifice map control and imagine everything that a tank is good at killing. All those units become much stronger. Banelings become much stronger. Roaches become much stronger. Hydras become much stronger. So let's just take a look at this Snute, who sets himself up like this. Not a ridiculously early gas, just an early gas. Let's look at the Terran player. The Terran player, ooh, look at this, doing a different style opening. What was the key time that I said? What was the time I said? What was the time? Between 6:30 and 7 minutes. 6:30 and 7 minutes is around when we should see those first 2 Hellions. Overlord from Snute tries to poke in. Where does he cut? He cuts up this way, maybe to be able to see a gas geyser. I want to put that bug in your ear. Braddock's doing a little bit more of a modern style of Zerg versus Terran, where you get the reactor first. This is what Bomber does in a lot of his openings. We have Marines. We have Marines. Okay, now, what were some timings? Okay, so look at that. Build Marines, 2 at a time. Thing going up. Okay, Snute. Going for this roach. Let's be a little more explicit about the benefits of this. If Braddock is going for some sort of all-in, we'll have roaches up, we can kill it off. If our opponent is doing something standard like Hellions, like in Wings of Liberty, we'll be in good shape. And if he's going mines, then we will still be in good shape because we saw an example of that last game. Great, I can release my V button. So this is timing. Between what times day 9? Was it 6:30 and 7 you said? Well, look at this. Right around 6 minutes. Generally at 6 minutes, these Hellions will not be done, or they will have just popped out the ramp. And then, between 6:30 and 7, imagine if you had a Zergling here or an Overlord here. That's when you would see it. Remember, 6:30 and 7 is the time when you should see 2 Hellions at the latest. That's when you should see them, not when they pop out, when you see them. So we have Snute getting his 12 roaches. After the 12 roaches, he's going to pull right on back, and he's going to go for some very standard droning, some very as expected droning, some total dronage, like some dronage like that. So here's the push coming out. And once again, no Banshee. The election to transition into Bio, the election to skip Banshee presents a large vulnerability that mines do not quite close up. So, I want you to stop right here and see this setup. In the last game, Morrow went 2 Hellions and then went for 2 mines. Still, no problem. We poach forward with a single roach, it absorbs the 2 mine shots, and then we have 11 more roaches that need to be dealt with. There they are. Here, he went for the mines just slightly later. And what does that mean? Wow, it means that he won't even have the mines in a comfortable position at all. Here's one, and look, poaches forward, just eats the shot, and he will now attempt to eat shot 2, but no matter anymore. These are in a terrible position. Snute gets himself a clear advantage. In the meantime, look at this, very easy to avoid the positioning, very clear the benefit that we are gaining. And in the meantime, Snute, expand, layer, getting himself an evolution chamber. All's well in the world of Snute. And as a follow-up push, what is the big thing that would crush a big push of roaches? A lot of mine hits doing a lot of damage, or a whole bunch of marauders, or tanks. He's not going tanks, he's going mines, so great. We don't have to worry about both mines and tanks unless he's going mech, which we can see he's not because we attacked him and we saw the bio. We saw the mines, so great. We're going to follow this attack up with just getting all the intuitive pieces, macroing up, delaying geysers 5 and 6 for our follow-up push, getting Overlord speed, the key component to be able to thwart this mass of mines. And because Empire's Braddock wants to make sure that we have the example as quickly as possible, the Overlords step right on in. And remember, Braddock can't both have a lot of Marine Marauder and have medevacs. He has to choose this, lots of bio, or not a lot of bio and the medevacs. Either way, the follow-up roach push is very effective. Pretty straightforward. And see, look, there's one connection with the mines. Those two mines actually had an amazing connection, but no big deal. Certainly not strong enough. Alright, cool. Went a little bit long in part 1, but that's okay. It's a very simple way to exploit the vulnerabilities that pop up early on. Doing this sort of roach push to shut the opponent down, and following it up with the Overlord speed. In part 2, we're going to look at one short opening that highlights how speed Zerglings will do the same exploit that we just saw. The exact same exploit that we just saw early game. And then we're going to watch a rather long game. We're going to see the complete opposite. How do we do something a little bit more defensive to deal with these types of Widow Mine openings? Stay tuned, because I'm going to be cut back. Excuse me, I'm going to be coming back in 3 minutes. Yeah! 3 minutes.